Despite Pokemon Champions being out for a few months, there are still a good number of Megas that do not have their abilities revealed yet. I considered the first batch of ZA Megas given to us in Regulation MA to have ho-hum abilities. I will never forgive Game Freak for what they did to Drampa, but that was probably just to keep the power level low. The two new Raichu abilities I think are going to indicate that the next group will have much better abilities, as Electric Surge is just a phenomenal ability, and Raichu Y has better tools to take advantage of No Guard compared to Hawlucha. They probably just got rid of the more mid megas to use in the weaker formats, so the ones that come later should be stronger. At least that's what I'm assuming. I'm not going to create a lot of made up abilities. These are just going to be my assumptions and guesses as to what I think these new big megas are going to get, just based off of what I think would be good for balance and what feels realistic. This is my first attempt at something scripted, so if you enjoyed this and would like to see more, feel free to subscribe, like, comment, all those things people ask you to do at the start of every video. ZA Megas are an interesting bunch as they are all very clearly designed to be offensive powerhouses. Absol Z is very much min-maxed for this exact purpose, with 154 attack, 151 speed, and mediocre everything else. Giving this thing a defensive ability would be a waste, to put it bluntly. So it's going to need something a little more offensive to really take advantage of those stats. I think Tough Claw is a solid option, given the tough claw on its back, but I personally like the idea of Sharpen is better. It gets it doesn't affect as many moves, but Absol gets a lot of slicing moves. Night Slash, Psycho Cut, X's, or Shadow Claw, which is now a slicing move, which would all be really effective in its arsenal, and the 50% power boost on sharpness I think would be much more appreciated. Staraptor is a weird one just because I don't really know what it's supposed to do besides spam close combat. I like the idea of it either keeping Intimidate so it can get two of those off in a match, or Defiant to let it set up sweep a little more effectively. I don't want to give it Contrary, as it doesn't really have anything else to take advantage of it besides close combat, and I don't want to risk making it too broken, but if Game Freak wants this thing to commit to 40 hours a week of close combat, that's probably the best bet, but I'm leaning more towards probably Defiant as my guess for what Staraptor is going to get. Some of you may be curious as to what Garchomp's ability is going to end up being, but I would like to propose a different question. Who cares? This thing is not going to be very good. Base Garchomp is really good, mostly because it has so much versatility when it comes to items, and taking that away to make it a special attacker while losing the ground typing, I don't think it's going to help it that much. I don't think this thing is going to be used very much, if at all. But if I had to guess, probably just Levitate, just because it's levitating now. Dragon's Maw I think would be a really fun option, but I'm not super hopeful for that, even though I do think the extra damage boost could be interesting, if this thing ends up being useful at all. Okay, last Z Mega, and there was a lot that can be done with Lucario Z. I remember seeing a lot of people ask for Dazzling just because of that fan format, because if I remember right, that fan format gave it Dazzling. But I'd like to see Mega Launcher. I remember that's another popular one I've seen around. It makes Aura Sphere significantly stronger. It definitely helps with making it much more effective special attacker. It gets Heal Pulse, which I think the only other Mega Launcher Pokemon that gets Heal Pulse is Clawitzer. So it gets to take advantage of that as well. It actually gets access to all of the Pulse moves with the exception of Origin Pulse. So I think it's the only Pokemon that actually would be able to take advantage of everything, obviously except for Kyogre's signature move, but they will all hurt off of that 164 special attack stat. Like, I know a lot of them are like coverage moves, like Water Pulse. No one's probably going to be running that, but still, you never know. I don't know what to give Heatran without making it broken. This thing is just a truck. It hits like a truck. It will take hits like a truck. It's I don't know what they were thinking, so I'm just gonna let it keep Flash Fire and I'll call it the day, because I don't want to know what kind of havoc Rykard Lord of Blasphemy over here will unleash once people learn how to pilot this thing. Because just the numbers and just how good Heatran's been historically, I'm I'm scared, and I think a lot of people should be scared of this thing when it is unleashed upon the masses. What is it with the Sinnoh legendary megas and looking like Dark Souls bosses? I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. I was just confused as hell when I did the boss fight for it the first time. This is not a Pokemon, because this is what sends children to therapy. Bad Dreams is the obvious choice here, as with the new bulky spread, it can just spam Dark Void and make the opponent take chip damage every turn, while they're unable to move. It won't be as effective because of the sleep rework. Now I think it's like a maximum of 3 turns or 2 turns of sleep, or like you're guaranteed to wake up on that third turn. But it could still be interesting, and it won't even matter because Darkrai will not be legal for a long time, just because of its status as a mythical. I don't even think it's coming in this upcoming update, but I figured I'd cover it because why not? Um, I don't think that's what Game Freak's gonna do with it though. I think they're going to give it Dark Aura in a similar vein to Floette getting Fairy Aura. It just feels weird that Fairy Aura is given to a Pokemon without giving something else Dark Aura, and Darkrai is unfortunately the best candidate. It could be interesting just, having that more offensive presence from Darkrai. Because, it can just boost up existing dark moves. There's a lot of very popular dark type moves, Sucker Punch knockoff, that could really benefit from it, especially with Darkrai just putting everything to sleep. So it could be interesting. It's going to be Bad Dreams or Dark Aura. It's going to be one of those two, and I'm very confident saying that. Scolipede, sure. I mean, there's a lot you can do with him. I just don't know what route to take because it's really funnily designed. The two I like most are Merciless because I would like more Pokemon to get that, and it could, you know, giving it more of an offensive presence would be nice. But, you know, it's obviously meant to be a lot more defensive now, so I'm probably thinking it's going to get Filter or just some large defensive buff. And I don't know. I'm just saying Filter just because I like Filter. I think it could do that. It already has an sky high defense stat, making that stronger would be very, very helpful for it. But like they gave him a whole suit of armor. They're probably going to play into it being defensive, but it's just a Pokemon that I think can do a lot. I think it's a very interesting thing. Like Scolipede is going to be interesting. I just don't know what they're going to do with it, and how you're going to use it really depends on what ability they give it. Because I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping it's good. Scolipede is a Pokemon that's been, a fan favorite for a while now, but uh, the only thing I'm confident on with it is that it's not keeping speed boost. I don't think this thing's keeping speed boost, and it's look at it. Okay, so what do we give Scrafty that makes it good without it just being Diet Incineroar? Because, Fake Out, Parting Shot, Intimidate, it's just Incineroar with significantly worse typing. And you have to use your Mega to make it significantly better. So, what ability do we give it? Well, looking at its design, he's wearing a jacket. I'm just gonna give him Fur Coat, or a variant of it at least, like fur coat adjacent. Like, for those who don't know, the Frostmoth line has an ability called Ice Scales, which um is fur coat but for special defense. And I think Scrafty would be able to take advantage of that a lot more than the physical, just because it being dark and fighting, a lot of its more prevalent weaknesses, namely Fairy, are dominantly special. So I don't know if it's gonna, I don't know how much it's gonna help it. It's not taking a Light of Ruin from Floette, but it could be useful. It could it could let him do some things, but it's probably not going to get run when Incineroar is sitting right there. Giving Electros anything other than Levitate just feels wrong. It's his whole shtick. Without it, I don't even know what you do with him. It's an awkward speed tier, mediocre defenses, weirdly a 145 attack stat, which I always think this thing as a special attacker, so that's funny. But I think it should just keep Levitate. Transistor would be funny. Transistor would be cool. If Raichu X, or if Raichu X did not get Electric Surge, that also would have been great. It would enable spam Rising Voltage, but I don't know. There's only so many offensive electric abilities, and there are four monotype electric megas that have not, been given abilities yet. So it's just like, what do you give it without it blending into the crowd? And that the answer is Levitate, because that's what it had. That's Electros's whole shtick. It'd be weird if it didn't get Levitate. Can I just skip Pyroar? Is anyone on this planet gonna care about Pyroar? Can we just put it in the garbage bin with Garchomp Z? Like, I'm sorry to all 8.5 Pyroar fans out there, but 129 special attack, 126 speed, and nothing else over 100 is not worth running unless it gets an absurd ability. I'm hoping for like maybe a special version of Moxie. That'd be cool. Something that dramatically boosts fire type moves. But for now, I'm just gonna give it Flash Fire and make it worse Houndour. Like unless it gets like a spicy spray kind of ability where it's so like absurdly busted that you kind of have to run this mediocre thing. There's there's no real reason to run it. Like I hope it gets something good. but I have no faith that it will. Are you guys ready for the most original idea of all time? Right? So I'm gonna give Malamar a brand new ability that sets up Trick Room on Switch In. Like, I, I don't know how no one ever came up with this before. But in all seriousness, Malamar probably needs this to be viable. And even with this, is Trick Room and Switch In really worth your Mega slot if your Mega is Mega Malamar? All I know is this thing needs to get something crazy, as people have been clowning on it ever since ZA came out. Contrary can still work on it pretty well, but if you're using your Mega slot for just more Malamar, there are much better megas you can use. You might as well go to Olive Garden and order the calamari if you want to be let down by a squid. Yeah, I'm just gonna cut to the chase on this one. Barbaracle base form gets tough claws. There's tough claws all over its design. It's probably gonna get tough claws. Like it's probably the safest pick in this whole list, but it lets it hit harder, and that's all this guy really needs to do. Rock and fighting is some really good offensive coverage, so being able to just hit harder on those contact moves would be very, very helpful. If not, if not Tough Claws, like I think No Guard would actually be a really cool ability on this thing, just because it gets Dynamic Punch, to where that's no miss Dynamic Punch. That's pretty good as well. But I'm locking in Tough Claws. Like there's what else are you gonna give it? Just look at him. Yet another easy one. I think Dragalge should just keep Regenerator. Its Dex entry literally talks about how much it makes cells regenerate at a rapid pace. That's what Regenerator does. It fits its bulkier spread, and I don't know if keeping adaptability is gonna make it good enough on the damage side, and I don't know what abilities it would even really want. Like I'm thinking this thing's gonna play a little more defensive, being Poison Dragon. So I'm leaning more towards that Regenerator, and I think it can help it out a lot. I don't think it's gonna make it broken, but I think that's probably what it's gonna get. Mega Zygarde does not need an ability. 216 HP and 216 special attack is enough. Nothing is surviving the walking, talking Chernobyl on its own. And what, you want me to make him stronger? I'm just gonna give it Aura Break, right? I think that's enough. I think that's all it needs. I think that would be actually be very helpful right now to help cut down on Floette's damage. But, it's a fun callback to its original form. It affects 3 Pokemon as of now, all of which are pretty good. And we don't need to give this thing another reason to be run. We don't need people like figuring out how to thread this needle for any more incentive beyond the 216 special attack stat and Nihilite. Nothing is safe against this thing. So if they want to give him anything remotely viable, I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what we do against that. I swear to God, if Golisopod gets another renamed emergency exit, I'm going to beat someone up. I don't know who that is yet, but I'll figure that out when I get to it. If you're gonna reheat Wimpod's nachos again, at least build in Intimidate so it has some genuine use. Otherwise, give it Tough Claws, give it Sharpness, give it Swarm, give it literally anything else. Don't make this guy a gimmick if you're not gonna do anything creative with it, and just have the gimmick make him worse. Glissobot already has so much going for it with a phenomenal new typing, solid stats, solid move pool. So don't ruin it by giving him a new, creative, fun way to leave the party an hour after he arrived because he could not handle one beer. And it's Zygarde all over again. Thankfully, this one's a mythical, so it's in like that Darkrai box where we'll never see this thing. But singles players, write your will and testament now while you have the chance. This thing is this thing is gonna create nothing goes or anything goes to or whatever. Soul Heart is already a broken ability, which it's probably just gonna keep. I've just resigned myself to that. Like it's on top of a mythical tier stat spread with the 100+ points from the Mega. Fairy type Draco Meteor, the best typing in the game. It's just absurdly busted weapon of mass destruction that you need to hide your families from, like right now. Like, uh, it's just gonna keep Soul Heart. That's the verdict. That's my verdict. That's probably what's gonna happen. And thank God I played VGC where these things are banned. Why are there so many mono electric type megas in this batch? You couldn't have given like a special typing to at least one of the Raichus or Zeraora, but whatever. Between this, Electros, and the Raichus, there's nothing really unique to offer this walking industry plant over here. Uh, he could have speed boost. He could, like, I think that's probably for the best. I don't know, it makes it faster. It's not like this thing has any lore or any unique move pool quirks that would make it, like, interesting. He has nothing. He's the strongest electric type or whatever, so he can have speed boost. He was running around really fast in the boss fight, so you know what? Yeah, that works. I physically cannot force myself to care what this thing gets. Game Freak, you already let me down with Drampa. Please give me something good in Phalanx. Phalanx deserves something good. It has really solid stats, surprisingly, especially if it gets a no retreat off. So I want to play into that and give it simple. It may seem broken to give this thing a +2 in everything on command, but keep in mind that afterward it can't retreat. You have to commit to using Phalanx as your Mega, so no other busted Megas to save you. And it also counts stat drops as double, so if it gets intimidated, it loses 2. I don't think this makes Phalanx broken, like there is some counterplay to it, but I think it'll make him a lot more usable, and I want him to be viable, and I just think it'd be really fun. Like, if that's too much, let him keep Defiant. I think either or is fine, but just again to play off into that no retreat playstyle and incentivize you to use that and really take that high risk, high reward play, I would personally go for simple. Tsugiri is interesting because why would you ever mega this thing? It exists to power up Dondozo and literally nothing else. Like, even as a last resort mega, the stats just aren't there. Like, it's not going to hit that hard and it's not going to tank anything. So, I see the idea. It's just the execution's a little off. But if this thing is meant to be the last resort endgame once Dondozo goes down, I say give it Supreme Overlord. So that way it can actually play off of, everything else being dead. Like, if it's the last resort, you might as well make it the most powerful last resort it can be. Will this fix the fact its offenses are too low to be an effective endgame sweeper? No. But it gives it a little bit of sauce as opposed to just being a dry sushi platter. And last but certainly not least, Mega Baxcalibur. And if we're being honest, it's probably just going to keep Thermal Exchange, which is fine. I don't know. I don't got much to say on Thermal Exchange. It's fine. It's good. Not being able to be burnt is nice. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to make it better than regular Baxcalibur, just because of the loaded dice sets. So let's let Mega Baxcalibur do that. Base Baxcalibur was typically tied to the loaded dice to use Scale Shot and Icicle Spear, so let's give it Skill Link. That guarantees that those moves will hit the maximum amount of times, and on a 175 attack stat, um, yeah, this is probably like the most effective thing you could do to it, because you're just taking what worked about Baxcalibur in the Scarlet Violet format and putting it on Mega Baxcalibur. So this is what I'm rooting for, just because I would like to see that. It would I don't know what you would do aside from that or thermal exchange, like maybe sharpness because it has the big blade on its back. But I don't know. Baxcalibur is interesting. I want to see it be good, and I think giving you access to that built-in better version of the loaded dice, because loaded dice is just 4 or 5. This is just all 5. I think that could be fun, and I think that is going to be terrifying. That's it for all of my mega predictions, hopes, ideas, whatever. I don't think all of these are the most practical, but I do think these are going to be somewhat realistic. So I'm sure a lot of these are pretty boring picks you've probably already heard before. But again, these are what I think is going to be the most likely. I'm not just going to give everything as one. Like, it just doesn't make sense. If you have your own ideas or think my ideas are stupid, I would love to hear some in the comments. Thank you for watching this far. I really want to use this as a way to get more involved with the competitive scene and the Pokemon community as a whole. So, the previous videos on this channel have been more trying to find that footing just so I can, involve myself a little bit more. So if you want to help me with that, please like the video, subscribe, and hopefully I see you again at some point. I don't know.